back to my channel, guys. So this week we're going to be discussing the Right and Wrong series, fanfiction, another Dramione, of course. And this is one that I actually started right after the Manacled, so I can kind of recover. I suggested this one because this one was more like a lighthearted, and then the last book does kind of get darker, so I'll kind of be going right back to that. So far I read the first one, which is The Right Thing to Do, and that was in Hermione's point of view, but it was in third person. Right now I'm currently reading All the Wrong Things, I think that's what's called. Yeah, All the Wrong Things, so it's basically in Draco's point of view. And I'm actually liking this one a lot better. It is coming from the mind of a teenage boy, so it does get more raunchy, I guess you could say, with certain thoughts that he has, but it has me cracking up. Basically, in this series, it is about after Voldemort is defeated. You have a couple years after everybody's out of Hogwarts. They're all working their jobs. You have Harry and Hermione working in the Ministry of Magic, and you start off with Draco basically being in Azkaban. So it starts out with Hermione and Harry both testifying and trying to get Draco out of Azkaban. When they killed Voldemort and then they captured all the Death Eaters, Lucius was taken to Azkaban, Draco was taken to Azkaban, they were all captured, and he was there for 16 months. So it starts off where they're in the Wizengamot, whatever you call it, Wizengamot, I don't know. They're in the court basically, and they're there to testify to help to have Draco be given basically a second chance. You have Draco there confused as to why they're even trying to help him get out. They eventually agree to release him. He's put on probation and he's supposed to work for the ministry for like 6 months. Draco ends up working in the same department as Harry, because Harry is Auror, so he ends up working in his department. And Hermione's actually working as an analyst for a different division. Harry and Hermione and Ron end up having a lot of perks because they did defeat the Dark Lord. So right now, Ron is actually playing for Quidditch for the Irish, which was his dream to do. He really, I don't even think in this book, he didn't even have to try out. He was just given the position just because his name. The whole time Hermione's trying to work up the ladder to eventually get to where she really wants to be, which is basically helping being in the department where it helps release the enslaved elves. And that's her goal. I think eventually her ultimate goal would be to be Minister of Magic, but she is trying to work herself up because she doesn't want to be just given the jobs just because of her title as the Golden Girl. She even applied on her resume as a different name just so they wouldn't just hire her just because of her name. On top of her working at the ministry, she works at a bookstore called Cornerstone. She likes it there. It's more quiet. It's not so much hustle and bustle, so it's more reserved, and she just likes to have that more privacy, I guess, when she's working. So she does work there on the weekends. They encounter each other there as well as at work at the ministry. So they have a lot of times to where they kind of cross paths, and situations happen to where it's like she gets nervous, and then he acts kind of like, you could tell he toys with her a lot. Like, he's not mean like he used to be in school. He's kind of like flirtatious in a way, but still like kind of snippy. He's just like kind of sarcastic and stuff with her, and she kind of doesn't know how to take it. She basically follows, like, it shows you in the book how she's been following his whole journey through everything when it comes to him being arrested, and then right after he gets out, she's actually collecting all these daily prophets that come out about him. So stories about him, she'll have them all stacked up in her room. She is very interested in him. She doesn't want to admit that she likes him, but she does, obviously. Throughout the whole time, they do kind of develop a weird, kind of like, I guess, a friendship in a way. More acquaintance, I guess. They hang out here and there, like maybe in group settings, like maybe going out to the bars, things like that. They have situations that they cross. It's really sweet type of different things that happen. Sweet, but then also like what like you kind of question yourself a lot, like what the heck is he thinking with certain things that he does. So since he does end up flirting with her, you think, okay, maybe something's gonna happen, and then all of a sudden she starts seeing these pictures of him with other girls, and you can tell Rita Skeeter is actually sitting there and publicizing his romantic life in the Daily Prophet, basically making him a hot commodity. She just gets jealous because of all the stuff that he's basically doing with all these other girls, and they kind of banter back and forth. Like, he'll come visit her at the bookshop here and there afterwards when she sees these pictures of him with these other girls and the Daily Prophet, and she's kind of like, So did you have fun, whatever, with your girlfriend, whatever? And then he'll just be like, oh, so you noticed. Things like that was happening. It was really cute. He was giving her that energy to where he kind of liked her. And she was kind of like, what the hell? When she would see him like in pictures with all these other girls. And it's like, okay, so you're sending me mixed signals here. So what do you mean? What's going on here? But of course she's not going to say anything. She's just kind of, be back and timid, like, oh, because she's not really thinking that Draco Malfoy likes her. So it's kind of like a love-hate relationship between the two. Like, you could tell there's tension there. You could tell that they like each other, but it's very much like, they're like, rrr, like, just constantly. But it's just the tension. It's building up. He just constantly bugs her, I guess. Is poking the bear. He's just poking the bear, basically, the whole time. He thinks it's fun. Like, he's having fun with her. And she's just like, doesn't even know what to do with these mixed signals. She's like, what is going on? I don't know what the heck. Like, I like this guy, but then obviously it's freaking Draco. What am I doing even liking him? And he acts like this, and I'm just so confused. And then his mom's over here trying to befriend her and get her into the family. And then he's getting mad because he's finding out his mom is constantly having her just come over and enjoy their library and check out their books and all this back and forth. She ends up finding out that Draco actually wants to start a business after he gets out of the ministry. And in order for him to start this business, he needs money. So, of course, he has his inheritance that he gets from his father. In order for him to get his inheritance, he has to marry a pureblood witch. And that's when he gets it released. But he does meet up with his dad in order for him to get it changed to where he can get it in increments instead of, since he has this business idea, he could possibly get the inheritance in advance. Hermione ends up coming over one of the times to visit Narcissa because she invites her over again. She actually tells her that Lucius wants to meet with her, which immediately makes her like step back. Like, what do you mean? Why does he want to meet with me? What do I for what? And basically she says, well, he wants to thank you because you helped help him have Draco be released from Azkaban and just have to start over. So she's like, okay. So she goes and meets with him. He thanks her, but he does, of course, because he's Lucius, likes to play games. So he's over there just like, well, in order for you to be able to be with my son, if you want to be able to be with my son, you need to follow this list of rules, basically. He has like a list of qualities in a wife for a Malfoy. Proper etiquette stuff that you need to be able to do. You need to be able to control a room. You need to be able to decorate nice. You need to do this. You have to be pureblood, blah, blah. Last thing was pureblood. Of course, Hermione not being pureblood, he's like, I can make an exception for you and forget that you're not pureblood. But you have to have all these other lists of traits. She's like, okay, but I'm not trying to marry your son. So he's like, okay, but you're lying. So like he basically thinks like, okay, you're lying. You need to just, I know what you're doing. Don't get close to him if you're not trying to follow these lists. So he says to basically trap her. He's like, if you don't take this class for this, which is basically like etiquette courses, dance lessons, being able to learn how to decorate right, so be meetings with interior designers, things like that. If you don't take all these classes for 10 weeks straight, then I will not be giving Draco the inheritance money to be able to start his business. And that puts her in a whole predicament to where she's like, what the hell? Now it's on my hands. So now she feels like, okay, now I feel obligated to do this because I don't want to ruin it for Draco. And so now what? So she's like, well, look, I'll do this, but I'm not doing it for 10 weeks. I'll take the class, maybe like this class here and there, whatever, but I'm not doing 10 weeks because I'm not planning on marrying him anyways. So they come up with a sort of agreement. She leaves. She starts her classes. Then he finally starts getting his first of his inheritance. Hermione does end up hanging out with Draco a lot more during these past few times. They get pictured together too, and then their pictures are put in the Daily Prophet. And she's all worried because obviously if she's pictured like she's with him, that she needs to be able to follow the whole steps for everything. And she's not planning on going all the way through with it. But then I think she ends up getting like a letter or something from him. And she's like, she has to do the whole 10 weeks. Like she signed up for, yeah. But on her condition, she's like, I'll do these classes, but I'm paying for them. I'm not going to be taking your money. So he agrees and she does that. Draco tries convincing her, like, hey, you should use what you have. Use your name and be able to get up the ladder that way. Don't let that be something that doesn't, like you need to be like everybody else. Try and use your name for what you need to get. But of course she doesn't want to do that. And Draco finally leaves and he starts his business. He convinces Hermione to actually join him in his business eventually. And she becomes like the, I think, senior consultant of like non-wizarding and creatures. So she represents the Muggleborns and anything creature related that needs to be addressed or taken to the ministry to maybe have things set up for them so they don't be discriminated against. Once she starts working there is where finally things start happening to where you see them starting to get closer, and finally something ends up happening to where they kiss one another. In this book, it gets very much more spicy, I guess you could say, compared to Manacled. This is a good read. I really enjoyed it. I think it did have a slower like beginning to where until it finally got to when they got together. But I ended up appreciating it because it's just, you can see the character development and how their relationship really grew as it kept progressing. So it made sense. It was just, I feel like I was so like, oh, come on, like hurry up, get to it. Cause it was just like so many moments to where they were like almost something gonna happen and then just like, no, never mind. But once it does happen, it's like, it happens. And it's not a disappointment. So I really enjoyed it. I think the ending was perfect. It was exactly what it needed. It ended up being a good like punch in the face to somebody. And try not to really spoil things. I guess it's hard to kind of put a synopsis without spoiling all these things. But yeah, she gets her dig at the end. So that's a good thing. And now that I'm reading Draco's side, it's really cool because the first book is very much in third person, even though it's more of Hermione's point of view. But the second one is Draco's point of view and it's first person. So that's a really big difference. And it didn't bother me. I think it was a bit, the author had commented that it kind of bothered certain people, but it didn't bother me. Actually, I enjoyed it reading it this way and having it different. The cool thing is, even though the second one is like Draco's point of view of what happened, it is not like chapter for chapter of like the first one. I was worried about the second one reflecting the first and kind of just showing what he was thinking as the whole time or whatever. And it's not like that. She did definitely pick certain situations that were satisfying to understand what he was thinking. Because you do find yourself asking, what the hell is he thinking when you're in these situations with the first book? When Hermione's in these situations with him, you're like, why the hell is he doing that to her right now? Or what is he thinking when she's doing this? Or, you know, like what is his reasoning behind these certain things? And now it's just all unfolding and it's like making so much sense. And I appreciate that so much. So I love that she did a different version on his point of view, because now it just answers all the questions that you had in the first book in the second one. And I'm like almost halfway through the second one, but I'm really enjoying the series. I can't wait to get to the third one, which is the auction. The auction is the more darker version. So you have the first two books being kind of the same. It's in the same setting to where Voldemort is dead. The third one is if Voldemort actually succeeded. And you get hints of the third book, the auction, in the first book and the second book. So the auction is basically like the Death Eaters coming together and basically auctioning off the witches that are like non-pure blood witches and things like that. Like they set certain prices for them and they're basically sold to certain other Death Eaters. It's just that. I'm not really 100% sure more about it, but I know that's like the premise. It's just like they end up capturing them because Voldemort does win, and they end up having these auctions, auctioning off all these witches, and Hermione is one of those witches. So I'm excited to see how this goes, because they have mentioned certain things within the first and second book that makes you like, man, how the hell is it? I don't know what's gonna happen, because I mean, we'll see. But I know it's like in these books I've heard of Draco basically trying to save her in that situation. So we'll see if that's the case, to where he's not technically the bad guy, he's the savior, but maybe playing both sides, kind of like a Manacled, kind of playing both sides in order to save her. So I'm definitely curious to see how that's gonna go. And I know it is darker, so we'll see how I take it. So I'll probably do like a part 2 of after I read everything. So we'll come back and see and compare. The ending of the first book is so sweet, but it's just like he does something for her that is just like, oh, I love that so much. It was so sweet. That is about it for that series so far. Let me know if you read this series, if you enjoyed this series, if you maybe did you start out with the series first and then Manacled. I've heard people left Manacled kind of for last during this whole Dramione journey of fan fiction, or was that your like first go and then you kept going with the rest? Because like mine, Manacled was my first go, and that's like top tier, and now I'm starting to trickle off into these other things, other fan fictions, and I'm hearing more and more about different ones that I'm really like excited to go deep dive into. But I am glad that this is the series that I started with right after Manacled. It was definitely a good pick-me-up because I needed it. But anyways, let me know what you think about this series. If you read the series, if you're going to read the series, and if you read the series, which out of the 3 books is your favorite? Because I'm curious, because so far the Draco one is my favorite. But we'll see how I feel when I read the auction. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.